afternoon, family. And happy Mother's Day. I do want to wish a special welcome and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there in the crowd and on Zoom. I think my mother is tuned in on Zoom. She wants to see me preach. So, yeah, hello, Mum, if you're watching. But yeah, the title of the lesson, I've sent it out. So if you don't have it, please just nudge the person to your left and right and they'll send it to you. But yeah, we're going to get into great mothers. That's the title of my lesson, and really just look at what a biblical mother looks like. Because I think there's some just incredible examples, not only here in the Bible, but just here in the church. And so when you think about mothers, we have learned, as we grow up, we have learned things throughout life. We learn through experience, we learn from our fathers, but there's no other teacher like a mother. We learn best from our mothers. They just teach us things that we don't even know we learned from them. And, you know, it comes naturally at first. Thank you, Finn. As a toddler, as a child, naturally we just pick things up as we go. It comes reluctantly as a teenager. You know, like, oh, don't tell me what to do, Mum. But deep down we're like, oh, that's pretty good advice. I might listen to that. And then hopefully we listen to our mothers as adults, but we think, oh, we've got it figured out by then. And so for some of us, it's wishfully, because maybe our mothers have passed on by now. And so there's what should I have learned? What would my mother do in this situation? So we're going to read here Proverbs 1, verse 8 to 9, and it has been read today, but it says, "Pay close attention, my child, to your father's wise words, and never forget your mother's instructions. For their insight will bring you success, adorning you with grace-filled thoughts, and giving you reins to guide your decisions." See, because of this, mothers have a special place in our hearts. Yeah. The first Mother's Day celebration actually took place in, you guessed it, a church, surprisingly enough, over 100 years ago in America. And I genuinely believe that a mother's love is the highest form of love that you can have here on earth between another human. Obviously God's love, you can't top that. But human to human, a mother's love, you can't beat that. You know, there's even a saying that he has a face only a mother could love. You know, like there's a reason that's a saying. It's not only a girlfriend, it's not only a wife, it's only a mother could love, because mothers just have this deep love for them. And I didn't make the saying. It's out there. You know, there was this mother and daughter, you know, maybe a little toddler, going into a grocery store. And the toddler, she's just having a fit. She's screaming, crying, kicking things over, tearing stuff apart. And the mother is calmly there like, "Calm down, Sarah. It's going to be okay, Sarah. You've got this. You can get through this. It's going to be okay. We're going to go home soon, Sarah. It's going to be okay." And the grocery attendant comes on over. It's like, "Wow, I'm just so impressed that you're able to stay so calm while your little daughter Sarah is, you know, having a rage quit. She's freaking out." She's like, "Oh, no. That's Lily. I'm Sarah." And so, obviously, though it's not always easy to be a mother, it is important, because we need mothers in this world. And so it is said that when God wants to do good work, he gets a man. When he wants to do great work, he gets a woman. And I'll back it up with the Bible, okay? You think of Moses led all of the Israelites out of Egypt. But if it wasn't for his mother that had the faith that my son will be protected, and so she put him in the little basket and sent him down the river. You know, the line of David, it began with a woman named Ruth. The preservation of Israel from Persia was founded on the bravery of Esther. She had faith that put her life on the line, and it saved Israel. The gospel, it starts with Mary, Jesus' mother. And even as we look in today, we're going to look in the Bible, book of 1 Samuel. You see, it's a book that has some of Israel's greatest leaders, some of the most well-known ones. It's got Samuel himself, it's got David, it's got Saul. But it starts with a woman, a mother who could bear no children. And so it's really incredible just to see the capabilities, how God really exalts women and what he does with them. I was at uni the other day, and I was just sitting by the lake praying and stuff like that. And it's graduation season, so a lot of the bachelor's, I think it's master's students are graduating at this time. And there was these four boys running around, maybe teenage and younger, and I looked over and their mother was the one that was graduating, you know, and so she's there and her mother was there, so these boys grandmother. And I just looked, I was just so impressed. Me being a struggling bachelor student, and this woman is over here raising 4 boys, not just even children, but raising 4 boys, and is able to get her masters and keep them in line. None of them was drowning or anything like that. I was like, this woman is impressive. And I think there's just so much respect for a mother when they can achieve so much. And so the title of my lesson is Great Mothers, and we're going to look at different points that great mothers are to have or go through. And point number 1, great mothers have great problems. You'll understand what I mean by that. But it's good to state this because we start to view motherhood as perfection, and we have a high expectation for them. We might view them as we kind of view biblical characters, that they're perfect, they can do no wrong, they have perfect insights, they're so humble, they probably glow in the dark, they can probably do a backflip if you ask them to. But I think what blows me away is their ability to always find things you just looked for. They're like, Mum, I can't find it. Looks in the same drawer and it's there. Superpowers. I don't understand that. I remember as a kid myself, I thought my mum could speak to cats. And why I thought this is because she can make this noise with her tongue, and she'd go, get it. I can't even do it. I'm not a mum, maybe it's only mums can do it. But every time she'd do it, the cats would, and then they'd jump, like every time. And I was like, is she speaking to them? What's going on? And I was just like, that's cool. I hope I can get that when I'm older, but maybe it's only a mum thing. I don't know, but we just look at our mothers as like, man, this is a superhero right here. Come on. But just like biblical characters, they had problems, and so do mothers. To be honest, some of us being those problems. But although they have great problems, they face them with great faith. And we'll look at a woman called Hannah in the first book of Samuel, who, although was a woman that couldn't bear children, went on to become one of the greatest mothers in Israel's history. So 1 Samuel chapter 1, we're going to read from verse 2. Verse 1 just gives you the introduction of her husband Elkanah, who we can call El. But verse 2 it says, it's referring to El here, he had 2 wives. One was called Hannah and the other Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had none. So for Mother's Day, we're going to talk about a woman who had trouble becoming a mother. And even as you read this verse, there's a lot of emotion in here, that she was lacking what made her feel fulfilled. Because back in those days, being able to have children was vital to a woman's worth. The more you had, the better. They were seen as blessings by God. That was the norm. That was the culture of the time. In Psalms 127, verse 3 to 4, it said, children are a heritage from the Lord. Offspring a reward from him. Like arrows in the hands of a warrior are children born in one's youth. Like a warrior with a bow but no arrow was Hannah here with no children. She felt powerless. And see, childlessness was such a stigma that it was seen as infliction by God. You can see how she viewed her situation. In 1 Samuel 1 verse 11 it says, and she made a vow saying, Lord Almighty, if you will only look on your servant's misery and remember me, and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head. So she saw this as the reason to her misery. In other versions it says, your servant's infliction, pain. She felt pain as she was going through this. And you can see it throughout the Bible. When Jacob's wife Leah finally becomes pregnant, she says, God has looked at my affliction. Or Rachel says, give me children or I will die. And so one rabbi said that there are 3 people who will be excommunicated by God. The Jew who has no wife, or the Jew who has a wife but no children. If there was no child within 10 years of a marriage back in Israel's time, that it was grounds for divorce within the Talmud, within the law. Or the husband was allowed to find another wife, remarry. And so there was a massive stigma around mothers having children, wives having children, because that was the culture of the day. But that was not her only issue. Her second problem was she had a rival, her husband's other wife, Peninnah. It wasn't just stated that she was childless. The other wife had children and would really like to mock her, torment her for it. 1 Samuel 1-4, it says, whenever the day came for Elkanah to sacrifice, he would give portions of the meat to his wife Peninnah and to all her sons and daughters. So Penny here had many sons, and the feast should be a time of rejoicing, celebrating. We're all getting together as a family. And yet for Hannah, she looked down and felt, suffering. She felt pain. She's like, this is just a reminder of what I don't have. Wow. 1 Samuel 1:6-8 says, because the Lord had closed Hannah's womb, her rival kept provoking her in order to irritate her. This went on year after year. Whenever Hannah went up to the house of the Lord, her rival provoked her till she wept and would not eat. Her husband Elkanah would say to her, Hannah, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons? And so you see here, it says God closed Hannah's womb. And as you can see, it brought about so much distress in Hannah's life. Not only was she left with feelings of being useless, feelings of not being wanted, but to make matters worse, her rival made fun of her for it, tormented her. And then you see her husband tries to step in and fix the situation. And I can imagine, not that I'm a husband in any way, but I am a guy, and so I can kind of relate to Elkanah here. But he might have even thought beforehand, okay, what can I say to cheer her up? What can I go in and say? And then this is what comes out of his mouth. I made steak and you didn't eat it. What's going on? I think there was just a breakdown in understanding what was really happening. And so, I think again, we, just as a man can relate to El here, that we can go into a situation thinking we have the perfect solution, or we have the perfect thing to say, and yet it ends up making things worse. That you're left more confused and a little bit hurt yourself, that you're like, why wasn't I able to fix it? Why couldn't I solve, her issues? Whether it's just a friend or your sister or it is your wife. Why can't I fix these situations? But what you'll learn throughout the Bible is only God can fix God issues. Yeah. So sometimes God allows situations to happen to draw us closer to Him, or to work a miracle through us that will draw others closer to Him. We can often wonder, why me, God? Why me? Instead of asking, how can you use me, God? What can I learn from this? What do you want me to understand? So these can be some of the hardest questions to ask ourselves and to ask God, but they can be some of the most rewarding. Yeah. And so this morning I was calling up, the mothers, I guess, in my life, my own mother, wishing her, a happy Mother's Day, and then I called my sister. Her name's actually, ironically, Hannah as well. And she's a mother of 3 boys. She's got a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old, and then Oakland, who's, about 2 or 3. And when her youngest son was born, I think he was born with an underdeveloped lung. And so right away they realised that there was issues, and they had to put him in an oxygen tank. They had to put a mask on him, and I think they ended up eventually realising we can't actually help him here in this small town hospital. So he was flown like 600 kilometres in a helicopter all the way down to like a bigger hospital in Brisbane where they could actually treat him. And so for days, endless nights, she'd go and she'd visit. She tried to find the closest hotel and would go and walk the distance to go and visit her son and stay up late and get home late and praying and just tormented, didn't know what to do. And even after he was cleared to go home, he was left with a little oxygen mask. And this is a brand new baby, left with a little oxygen mask and a tank they had to wheel around just so that he could breathe, because he wasn't able to do it on his own. And obviously it caused a lot of just fear, not only in Hannah's life and her husband's, but in all of us. We're like, well, why God? Why this innocent little child? Why would you do that to him? But I think to see him today, 3-4 years old, running around, the happiest kid, he's just so carefree that you can see that God did such an incredible miracle through that. And God did such an incredible miracle through Hannah that it brought all of us closer to Him. Because where else can you go when you're in a situation like that? It doesn't really matter where you go, they can't fix it. Only God can. And so, yes, it was hurtful, it was painful, but we can see wow, there was God in that we can actually rely on it. And even, so it's incredible to really see the miraculous things that God does even in these scary situations. And preparing for this lesson, I asked the husbands or the fathers in the church. I was like, I want to hear why you think your wife is an incredible mother. Obviously, we know they're incredible mothers. We see them mumming around all the time, just doing awesome things. Maybe that's a word, I don't know. But, I wanted to hear it from the source. They obviously see them being a mum the most. And Pete shared with me, Paul, in his journey of having wonderful little Miles, who you saw on stage. Just, he's adorable. But yeah, about 2 years ago, when she was giving birth, there was complications during the birth where he was cut off from oxygen. And, it caused, the doctors said that because he was cut off from oxygen, it could cause cerebral palsy in his life further on. And I think just, devastating news of that alone. But what she did about it, her reaction towards it, just how much she's fought for little Miles. She's done everything she can to really help his development. Been taking him to occupational therapists and doctors and physios and all of these things and doing physical exercises with him. She's had appointments, almost weekly for the past 2 years, and she's just fought everything. She's brought it all to God in prayer. And to see just that, you wouldn't know that looking at her. She comes on stage and sings, and you just see her in the crowd. She's just one of the happiest people here at church. And you wouldn't know the pain that's going on in her really fighting for her son's movement as a young boy. But, to hear the result of it, that recently the doctors confirmed to Pete and Paulina that Miles won't be diagnosed with cerebral palsy, and that it won't be on the spectrum. It's heartwarming to see how much love, how much care there is, how much they're willing to go for their children. How much a mother just cares for them. And obviously, I think every mother would have a situation like that. Every mother, I could get up here and go on about just how much mothers have fought for their children. And so, really, you can see that great mothers have great problems. Yeah. But when they bring them to God, they aren't so great anymore. God is greater than even their greatest problems. And so my challenge to you is, regardless of your problem, take it to God. Yeah. We all have problems. It's not unusual to have them. But when you stay strong in your word and stay strong in prayer, that's the only way we can get through these terrifying situations. So point number 2, we'll continue in 1 Samuel. Great mothers keep great priorities. 1 Samuel chapter 1, verse 9 to 15, it says, "Once when they had finished eating and drinking in Shiloh, Hannah stood up. Now Eli the priest was sitting on his chair by the doorpost of the Lord's house. In her deep anguish, Hannah prayed to the Lord, weeping bitterly, and she made a vow, saying, Lord Almighty, if you will only look on your servant's misery and remember me, and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head. And she kept on praying to the Lord. As she kept on praying to the Lord, Eli observed her mouth. Hannah was praying in her heart, and her lips were moving, but her voice was not heard. Eli thought she was drunk and said to her, How long are you going to stay drunk? Put away your wine. Not so, my lord, Hannah replied. I am a woman who is deeply troubled. I have not been drinking wine or beer. I was pouring out my soul to the Lord. Wow. So here, like any good high priest would, he thinks she's drunk. This woman who has gone to the house of God looks at her and is like, yes, alcohol, that's what's causing this. Not prayer, not anything else. What a great leader. But I think we can all relate to that. You might have seen someone like, oh, this person is in sin. But obviously it's biblical to make mistakes, so amen. But Hannah goes here, I'm not drunk, I'm praying. There's a big difference between the two. And so hopefully no one in the church will ever have to say these words. No, I'm not drunk, I'm praying. Prayerfully we're all close enough to God to be like, okay, that person just needs a bit of prayer. When you see this woman in prayer and total dependency she has on God. Yeah. They're saying when there are tears in our eyes, there is testing in our hearts. But it's almost incredible what we don't hear from Hannah. We don't hear complaints to her husband. We don't hear complaints about her husband. Or not even complaints about her rival. She doesn't say, God, smite her. God, stop her from having one more. God, why can't I have one of her children? None of that. She knows that this is a God issue, and so only God can handle this. And so take notice what it says is, as she continued to pray. It was not a simple religious ritual. It was not a simple, God, fix it. And I'll talk to you later. But it was just a deep personal connection with him. That she was really invested in. And there was just this intimate connection between her and God. 1 Samuel chapter 1, 17 to 18, it goes on. Eli answered, go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant what you have asked him. He said, may your servant find favor in your eyes. Then she went her way and ate something, and her face was no longer downcast. So, us men, we're a little bit right. Eating something, sometimes it can help, Sometimes we're just, what's the term? Hangry, We're just hangry. We're like, we actually just need to eat something. But you notice the change. She went from anguished, and now she's leaving affirmed. That she had that peace that passes understanding when we go to God in prayer. All of that to say that here is a woman that has a real relationship with God. There is a depth and affectionate relationship. There's a quote that says, you want to change the world? Get a mother to pray. Abraham Lincoln himself said, no one is poor who has a godly mother. So Hannah here had a great problem, but she also had great prayer. It's not recorded of her going to her husband to comfort her or to fix it or anything like that. She went straight to God. But that didn't hinder her incredible relationship with her husband. That there was still a deep love and respect for him. And as I was reflecting on this, I was thinking about, growing up myself. That I thought it was normal for, every child to have a mother and a father who loved each other and loved, the child, and everyone went to church. I was so naive. I just thought that's what everyone got. Until I get to high school. And, you find that not everyone has that opportunity. Not everyone has that experience to have, both the mother and father's love, to learn how to interact with the opposite gender. All of these kind of things, just how to treat people sometimes. And so it really opened my mind up to just how much the world needs. Not just a mother's love, but so many love in different kinds of areas. And so, I was thinking about, as I called up Mum today, I was just thinking about all of the incredible things she did. And our mother did an incredible job to raise 5 of us. I've got 4 siblings. And to manage to keep her sanity throughout all of that. Which I do want to give a shout out to Mrs. Barber to raise 12 kids. And that's incredible. That's incredible. Yeah. And I was thinking about it, and I think it's just, I would see Mum, that, obviously you attribute it to mother's love. But also, she would spend time, she'd go to her Bible. She would go to prayer when she saw it necessary to just, find that strength that she couldn't have herself. And there'd be times, I'd see her say a little prayer of protection or gratitude, either before a situation or right after coming out of one. And I was just impressed by it. I think that's where I really learned to understand what is prayer and where I learned prayer from. But then I definitely know where she learned it from. As I called my grandma today, because, obviously she's a mother as well, she points out, she's like, if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't even be here today. And I was like, Grandma, you have a point. But I definitely know where my mum learnt to pray. Because as a kid, and Grandma would come over for dinner, and it was exciting, yes, Grandma's here and everything like that. But then Dad would ask her to pray, and we're like, oh, and because she'd pray for the food, and you're like, we're eating this food cold by the time, because Grandma would cover she'd cover every nook and cranny in her prayer before dinner, and at the time you're a kid, you're like, I just want to eat the food, but now I'm like, no, that was impressive. She is a woman of God, a woman of prayer, and so I think it was just impressive to learn those things from them. And so, how I wish now I could go back and spend more of my moments, as a child, just praying with my mother, praying with my grandma, and having that intimate connection, not only with them, but with God. I think that it adds a whole new level to things. So, as we're speaking about prayer, let's see what happened to Hannah's prayer. 1 Samuel chapter 1, verse 19 to 23, it says, early the next morning they arose and worshipped before the Lord, and then went back to their home at Ramah. Elkanah made love to his wife Hannah, and the Lord remembered her. So in the course of time, Hannah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She named him Samuel, saying, "Because I asked the Lord for him." Hannah did not go. When her husband Elkanah went up with all of his family to offer the annual sacrifice to the Lord and to fulfill his vow, Hannah did not go. She said to her husband, "After the boy is weaned, I will take him and present him before the Lord, and he will live there always." "Do what seems best to you," her husband Elkanah told her. "Stay there until you have weaned him. Only may the Lord make good his word." So the woman stayed at home and nursed her son until she had weaned him. So this woman, she started as barren, unable to conceive. She was downcast, she was hurt, she felt powerless. She prayed, she was persistent, she was faithful, and God rewarded her prayers and allowed her to conceive against all odds. And as she said in her prayer, she vowed to dedicate this child to the Lord and even named him Samuel because she asked the Lord for him. And so every time she'd call on his name, she'd be reminded that she asked the Lord for him and he delivered. And just to see the miraculous things that God had done in her life. That name, every time, Samuel, she'd be remembered. Wow, God did work that miracle. I remember when I didn't have Samuel. I couldn't have any sons. And now, look at him, a growing boy. And so this scripture really just reminds me of our incredible mother and shepherd, Kira, who, obviously came up and did the welcome. And I remember her sharing one time for communion just what she's been through, just throughout life and life as a mother. That, she's an incredible mother of two. She runs a business. She's an incredible wife. And she is a shepherd within our family of churches, which means, she's basically a mother to over 200 people. When they have needs like Len and Kira, and Kira's really just there to support them. But as she shared just about her life, that she has two autoimmune diseases, that she shouldn't actually be able to walk, she shouldn't be able to have children, she just shouldn't have that capability, and that her life expectancy was actually 30. And it was just a powerful communion of just how much she's accepted the pain and really gone to God in it. And yet she stands before you today, walking, joyful, has two beautiful and healthy boys, and obviously they're just a massive part of this church family. Yeah. But even as we listened to her communion, she vowed, she said, "I will be here to see my sons become disciples someday." And so she just put all of her trust in God, and you can see where that has led her. And so, God has just worked miracles in her life just like she did Hannah, and I just really want to lift up Kira today as well. Yeah, it's incredible. We really do have incredible mothers within the church. There's a Jewish proverb that says, "God couldn't be everywhere, so he created mothers." Now, obviously I don't agree because the Bible says God is everywhere, but it does sound good that he really used mothers to do his work. And so my challenge is for you is to have a list of priorities in your life and put God as number one. Yeah. When you rely on God, when you put him first, only then can everything else kind of work out. It all falls into place when God is at the center. And it's a lot easier to get through things when we're not cramming God in because he's so massive and our lives are so busy and small. But when we actually just put God first and fit everything around it, it makes it more beautiful, but actually works a lot better. And so, coming in for a close, point number 3, great mothers make great plans. And so 1 Samuel chapter 1, verse 24 to 28 says, "After he was weaned, she took the boy with her, young as he was, along with the 3-year-old bull, an ephah of flour and a skin of wine, and brought him to the house of the Lord at Shiloh. When the bull had been sacrificed, they brought the boy beside to Eli and said to him, 'Pardon me, my lord, as surely as you live, I am the woman who stood here beside you praying to the Lord. I prayed for this child, and the Lord has granted me what I asked of him. So now I give him to the Lord, for his whole life will be given over to the Lord.' And he worshipped the Lord there." So just a bit of historical background. The modern Bible, if you look through the order, it puts the books in order of Judges, then the book of Ruth, then the book of 1 Samuel, which we're reading. But in the Hebrew Bible, it goes straight from Judges to 1 Samuel. And why is that important? Is because at the end of Judges, it depicts the nation of Israel without a king and acting independently. Not following God's commands and really just living recklessly. And this is the image of them at their lowest point. And the solution was to bring in a child from this weak mother's prayers to save them, to give them hope. Her plan wasn't just to have a child to be satisfied. She had a dream for him. So when she finally received her gift from God, she gave it back to God. She understood that this wasn't mine to begin with in the first place. I prayed and God gave it to me. So God, let me dedicate this back to you. And Samuel went on to be the leader of Israel as before they had the first kings come in place. And so it really helps us realize that we are only stewards, that you are only a steward in life, that everything you're touching now, someone else will own later on. And that's very true in the kingdom. You see sisters with nice dresses. A year later, you'll see a different sister wearing it. It goes around. Brothers' shoes, they'll probably be in Samoa in a year from now. Because I said, we support each other. We're a family. And so everything we touch now, the money that comes into our bank accounts. Next week, that's in my landlord's account. Next week, that's in Woolworths. Everything we touch now, we are only stewards of. Yeah. And so here, Hannah, she couldn't dream selfishly because she knew this wasn't even hers to begin with, understanding her situation. That her plans did not just involve God, but the plan was God. Yeah. And it helps looking into ourselves and seeing, is God really at the center? Is my life fulfilling by just focusing on God? And I love seeing Sean and Tegan, and Tegan just being an incredible mum to little baby Eli. But many of you may not know that she was a mother well before she had her first child. And so when I was first baptized in the Christian, when I was a baby Christian, I actually lived on Sean and Tegan's couch in New Zealand for way too long. I overstayed my welcome like a dead fish, man. I should not have been there. But it had such an impact on me that she was the best spiritual mum I could ever ask for. Cooking for me, cleaning, encouraging me, giving me inspiring things, teaching me things I didn't know about Bible or just life. And to see that she obviously does all of that and so much more with her new son now, and just the impact that she has had. But I think even more than that is just that, obviously she's a new mum, she's figuring it out, but she does not use it as an excuse. That she is on campus serving the Lord, studying the Bible with people that baby Eli's probably been in more Bible studies than some of you. That's between you and the Lord. But he is really just the Son of God. He is God's boy. And it's Tegan's commitment. She's like, because God is the center. It's not, I'll put him aside while I figure out motherhood and then, get back to God when he's older. He's like, God is the center. And that's really what we're going to do. And then obviously Debs, our incredible mother Debs, wherever she is. Just to see her heart, that she has gone and raised her incredible children, who are her spiritual children, who are so zealous for God, that she's done a job as a mum to raise them in the faith, to teach them about God. Yeah. But also she is a mum to not only hundreds, probably thousands of people all over India and now all of us here. Yeah. And just her heart for us. Every time I see Debs, I had the cold going around last week or a few weeks ago, and every time she's like, Jordan, how's your health? Are you doing this? Are you drinking this? And she's not my mum, but she is my mum. She really just has a heart for everyone to meet everyone's individual needs. But it's just a little conversation, question. It's kind of just incredible. So I just want to lift up the incredible mothers we have in this room today. And so it really brings us to think about, where we're at in life. Do our dreams solely depend on God? Do we want to start a family one day? And are we looking to base it all on God? Or is it our own agenda and, God, I'll get there at some point. I'll get close to you later on. And so I think today we have seen just how incredible mothers are in general, but just how much God values them. We see both examples here in the Bible and here in this room. And you can look into your own lives, your own mothers, your aunties, wherever it is, to see just how incredible they can be and the impacts they can have. And when they take up the calling of motherhood, they make it all about God. So the question is, what has He called you to, and are you making it solely about God? So my challenge for you today is to set a dream that's not based on what you want to get out of life, but what God really wants to do with your life. How can you be serving God? God, here am I, what can I do for you? Instead of, God, why me? Why am I going through this? What can I learn? So the title of my lesson was Great Mothers. And great mothers have great problems, they have great priorities, and they have great prayers. You are valuable, regardless of your problems. We think that our problems or hurts or our pain make us less, but there is nothing to be ashamed about because you are loved by God, and we here will love you too. So you have pain, God has a plan. When you're at your worst, God is at work. You need a set of priorities you're going to live with, and God can be at the center of those. So please, go home, visit your mothers, give them a call if they're not here in Sydney, but happy Mother's Day and thank you all for coming.